Okay everyone, in this video we are going to start economics and its first chapter, that is the story of village Palampur. And by this chapter, by this story, we are going to understand what are the different aspects of production and what are the different factors of production. And we will also consider that how the farming has been done in most of the villages of India by this story. And now, in starting, what we are going to study in this chapter is, first of all, we need to understand this story. The story of Palampur is a hypothetical village. That means it did not exist in reality. In this village, there are 450 families belonging to different castes. In India, the villages are something where you still can find the caste system, and this village also have different kind of caste. Now 80 upper caste families are living in this village. One third of population of total population is Dalits. They don't have the same amount of resources that the richer section of society have. They have very small houses which has been constructed by mud and straw. Okay. Now if we talk about the most of the houses, then we will got to know that the most of the houses of Palampur have electricity connection. There are two primary schools and one high school for schooling purpose in Palampur, and one primary health care center which is run by government, and one private dispensary where you could find different medicines. Now we will understand what are the organizations of production, how anyone organize the production, how the production happen, what are the process of it. So basically it is the organized activity of transforming resources into finished products in the form of goods and services. As like, I have cotton, I have produced cotton by the farming, and now if I want to manufacture that cotton into shirt, then I have to do production, I have to do manufacturing, and for that we need to get something from to transform that cotton into a final good. Okay, so factors of production. What are the factors of production? First we need to know that land is a major factor of production. If anyone is going to produce anything, then he need to have land. If you are going to do farming, then you need land. If you are going to manufacture something, the most probably the raw material you use for the manufacturing will come from the land, or the machines, or the factory, or the office. You would build that up onto the land. Now, second thing is labor. If you had land, then you have someone to work on it, who will make that land productive, who will run the machines, who will till the fields for you. Okay. Now third, capital. Capital is also an important factor of production, because without capital you won't be able to purchase the raw material, you won't be able to give wages to your workers. So that is why the capital is also a major important factor of production. Now if we talk about requirements of production, then land and other natural resources such as water, forest, minerals are required for the production. Look, if you want to manufacture steel, you need minerals. If you want to do farming, you need land, you need water. So these are some requirements for production. You need labor, that is people who will do work for you. You know? and this means that both skilled and as well as unskilled labor. Here, labor means that you can need both labors, that one is very professional who could do his work very professionally, second one who don't have any specialization in his field, but he can provide you labor. Okay, so third requirement is physical capital. What is physical capital? It means that the variety of input that is required at every stage during the production, as like you need machines, है ना, by which you need raw materials, you need money in hand, everything. So you need something that by using that capital you could ensure that your production is occurring. Now there are two types of capital that we have. First one is fixed capital. Second one is working capital. As like tools, buildings, machines, they all can be used for a longer period of time for many years. Then we call this as fixed capital. And raw materials, money in hand, as like if you are manufacturing t-shirts, so every time you have to buy new cotton to produce t-shirt na. So the raw material, the cotton, you have to purchase it at a regular interval. So that is why this is working capital, and without this you won't be able to use your machine, use your land, use your labor. So this is known as working capital. So money in hand, you need to give money to those who are working for you, who are providing you the raw materials. Okay, so this is how we have divided physical capital into two parts, that is fixed capital and working capital. If we look next, we will find that what are the factors of production, as like knowledge and enterprises put together land, labor, physical capital, and produce an output either to use yourself or to sell in the market. And these days it is known as human capital. So basically, after all three things that you have studied earlier, like you need land, you need labor, you need physical capital. But apart from this, you need a person, you need a team who know how to sell your product, who know how to use that product. Yes or no? So, who knows how to organize all these things, when to purchase something, when to sell something, when to give wages to the laborers. So, this is known as human capital these days. Okay. So, next, if we talk about farming in Palampur, we will understand all the things, all the factors of production do with the help of this story. Okay. Now, the first thing is land is fixed. That means the village of Palampur is not expanding, है is not acquiring the lands of other villages. It is fixed. Its area is fixed. And now if we talk about next thing into it, that is farming is the main production activity in Palampur. Not only in Palampur, but most of the villages that we have in India, they are mainly based on farming for their livelihood. And now 75% of the people are dependent on farming for their livelihood in Palampur. Since 1960, Palampur in Palampur there has been no expansion in land area under cultivation. I have told you that the land has fixed there, and there is not a single expansion of land that the Palampur had since 1960. But what they have done to increase the cultivable area, they just started to using wasteland that were in villages and converted that into the cultivable land. Okay, what are the wasteland? Wasteland are those who are less fertile area and farmer don't use that. So nowadays, with the help of irrigation, with the help of fertilizers, pesticides, HYV seeds, now we are using that wasteland too. So there is a question that is there a way that one can grow more from the same land? Okay, we have to understand something. So during rainy season, that is also known as Kharif season, farmers grow jowar, bajra, and these plants are used as cattle feed. So first crop that farmers grow in one year, that is Kharif and jowar, bajra. Okay, now, and it is followed by cultivation of potato between October to December. So this short season is known as Zaid season. Okay, after they cut all the jowar and bajra, then they just cultivate their field with potato in Zaid season, that is between October to December. And in winter season, they just use that field to grow wheat, and this season is known as Rabi season. A part of the land area is also devoted to sugarcane, which is harvested once every year. So now you have to understand that Palampur, the villages of Palampur, are producing three different crops in an year with the same land, and that is the way they are increasing the production. They are increasing the gross production that they have from the same land. And because sugar cane is a kind of crop that completely grown into 10 to 12 month, so once you sown sugar cane, then you won't be able to grow many crops in that same field. So next thing, we will continue that. So why we are able to grow more than one crop in a year? So because the farmers of Palampur have a well developed system of irrigation, they can irrigate their field into the Zaid season, into the winter season, or into the rainy seasons with the help of tubewells and all. Next thing here is electricity came early to the Palampur, transformed the system of irrigation from Persian wheel to electric run tubewells. So basically what happened into this, that electricity was introduced in Palampur were early, and due to the electricity, the farmers of Palampur installed the tubewells, and by that tubewells they irrigate their field, and that is how they just transformed the system of irrigation from Persian wheel to electric run tubewells. And now, and by the mid of 1970s, the entire cultivated area of 200 hectares was irrigated. That means whatever the land has been cultivated at that time is now irrigated due to the system of irrigation. Now we know that what was the traditional farming method before the irrigation was introduced. So what was there, that the another method to increase the production is use modern farming method for higher yield. Yield is measured as crops produced on a given piece of land during a single season. So what happened here? So another method to increase the production from the same land is that we can use modern farming methods instead of traditional farming methods, as like we can use HYV seed. And there is a term mentioned here is yield means yield is a measured as crop produced on a given piece of land during a single season. That if you have grown uh, wheat on 1 hectare, that the maximum amount of crop that you have ever grown on that field or with that seed or method. Okay. Now, second thing here, till mid 1960, the seeds used in cultivation was traditional ones and with relatively low yields. That means till 1960, the mid of 1960, farmers were using seeds that was traditional ones and with relatively low yields. That means their production ability was low. Okay. Now, traditional seed needed less irrigation. They don't need that much irrigation that HYV seeds demands. And now second thing, farmer used cow dung and other manure, natural manure as fertilizers. They just use the dung of their cattles, not only the cow, and plus natural manure as like the leaves, the remains of crop. They use this as manure, as natural manure, as fertilizer. Okay. Now, all these were readily available with the farmers who did not have to buy them. So, whatever thing that is needed in traditional farming is available to the farmers and they don't have to buy anything from the market. Now, if we talk about Green Revolution, so Green Revolution introduced cultivation of wheat and rice using the high yielding varieties. Now, here you got the full form of HYV seed. So, what is it? High yielding varieties. And this was the seed that transformed the cultivation system in Punjab, Haryana, and Western Uttar Pradesh. Why? Because this seed gives us more grains than traditional ones. That means the yield is going to be up if we use these seeds. HYV seed promise to produce much greater amount of grain on a single plant. That means that one single plant can grow more than a single plant of traditional plant. Okay. Now HYV seeds need plenty of water and also chemical fertilizers, pesticides to produce best result. If you want to get best result from the crop, you want to grow good amount of production, then you have to do what? You have to ensure that you are giving plenty of water to your HYV seeds, HYV crops that you are growing in your field, and also the amount of fertilizers will be high and pesticides. Okay. Now next part here is the farmers of Punjab, Haryana, and Western Uttar Pradesh were the first to try out the modern farming method in India. So these were some regions who had opted Green Revolution for the very first time and they got positive results. Now, will the land sustain? That is the biggest question that this chapter can arise for our environmental problems because scientific reports indicated that the modern farming methods have overused natural resource base, whether it is water, whether it is land, we are overusing it. And if we continue this method, then it might be that the groundwater level will be low, land will be less fertile, and we won't be able to grow as much amount of grain that we are growing right now. And green revolution is associated with the loss of soil fertility due to the increased uses of chemical fertilizers. Look, as we are giving land so much of fertilizers that its soil fertility is decreasing with it. Assume that I am giving you the food, I am giving you the every necessary thing that you want for your living. So would you try to earn some money? Would you try to go and work? No, you won't do this. So when your necessary works has been done without working, then why would you try to work? So that is happening with the land. When natural fertilizers are giving all the minerals that plant needed and killing the microorganism which found in the soil, then it will decrease the fertility of land. A third point, soil fertility and groundwater are built up over the years. Once destroyed, it is very difficult to restore them. So, whether it is soil fertility, whether it is groundwater level, that they are built up over the years, over so many years. And once if we destroy this, we won't be able to restore this, or it will be very difficult for us to restore it. Now, thus, we must take care of our environment and ensure future development of agriculture. So that is why we need to think of it that we are doing right or wrong. We need to just think of our environment, and we have to ensure that the future development of agriculture. Now the next slide says that how is the land distributed between the farmers of Palampur? We all know that there are several different castes which are powerful and less powerful. So land will be distributed unevenly. People engaged in agriculture do not have sufficient land for cultivation. This is for everyone. In Palampur, about one third of 450 families are landless. That is, 150 families of them are Dalit. So basically, most of the Dalit family do not have a land where they could practice farming. Now, 240 families cultivate small plots of land less than 2 hectares. That means 245 families are there which are small farmers, and now the 60 families are there who are medium and large farmers who cultivate more than 2 hectares of land. Now, who will provide the labor? It is very simple. Who don't have any kind of land to work on, they will provide the labor. Farming is required a great deal of hard work. Definitely. Now, small farmers along with their families cultivate their own land. If we talk about those farmers who have less than 2 hectares of land, they just do whatever work is on their field, they just do by themselves. But if we talk about thus they provide the labor required for farming themselves. They do the work by themselves. Now, medium and large farmers hire farm laborers to work on their field. The farmers who had more than 2 hectares of land, they will hire the small farmers or farm laborers to work on their field. Now, who are the farm laborers? They either belong from the landless family or families that are cultivating small plots of land, or they do not have any kind of right over the crops that they have grown on the land. They have done the all hard work, but they do not have any kind of right on the crop that they grown. They are paid by wages by the farmers who they work. They will get some wages, but wages can be in cash or in kind. Example, they can get crop, they can get meals, and they can get cash. It is totally dependent on the farmer who is employing them. Now wages varies widely from region to region, from crop to crop, from one farm activity to another. So wages vary whether it is region to region. There will be different wage in Punjab, and there will be different wage in Kerala. There will be different wage if you are working on a wheat field or if you are working on a paddy field. Everything is different. Now, what kind of capital do we need in farming? This is the third factor of production. We have talked about land, we have talked about labors, and we are now going to talk about capital. So basically, most of the farmers have to borrow money from the money to arrange for the capital. So most of the farmers that are small farmers, they have to borrow money from someone to do work on field, to do just produce something on their field. So the rate of interest rate such loan is very high. They are put together to distress to repay the loan. What happened there in the villages, there are some local money lenders who will provide the money to the small farmers, but the problem is the amount of interest rate they cost is so much high that the small farmers are unable to repay that loan amount, and that is how they uh, just got into the distress of cycle of poverty. And now, in contrast to small farmers, how do they arrange? How do the minimum and medium and small, large farmer arrange the money, capital? They just have their own saving from the farming because they sell their surplus amount of crops into the market, and by that they got money. And now they are thus able to arrange for the capital by the selling of their surplus amount of crops. Now, sale of surplus farm products, we need to understand that small farmers are not going to produce any kind of surplus farm products because they have very small plots of land. So farmers retain a part of the wheat or whatever crop they have produced for the family consumption, and then they will sell the surplus wheat, surplus crop. Surplus means extra, that you have any kind of extra thing, you could sell that. Now, second thing, the traders at the market buy the wheat and sell it to the further shopkeeper in town and cities. Okay. Now, mostly money is saved in the bank account or given as credit to small farmers. So, what medium and large farmers do here, they sell their surplus farm product, they can submit this money to the bank account, or they will give money to the small farmers as a credit, as a loan, and by on that money they will cost so much of interest rate, then it will earn money from that money. Now, a part of earning is saved and kept for buying capital for the next season. So, most of the large farmers, what they do, they just save their earnings and they will save it for purchasing of capital, purchasing of the things that they need in next season of farming. Now, there are several non-farming activities that are occurring in Palampur, as like 25% of the people working in Palampur are engaged in activities that are other than agriculture. As like first one is dairy, second one is small shops, third small scale production, fourth transport. These are several things that happen in Palampur. Now, if we talk about dairy, it is the most common activity that most of the families do. And apart from this, people just feed their buffalo. They just took their milk and sell it to the market, or dairy managers, dairy, the person who is running the dairy will come to these people, will come to these farmers and collect the milk, and after that the milk is sold at Raiganj and nearly large village from where milk is transported far away towns and cities. So basically, the dairy managers from Raiganj, they collect all the milk, condense it, and then they sold this, then they transport it for far away towns and cities. Now, if we talk about the second thing that happens in Palampur is small scale production. What happens here? Less than 50 people are engaged in manufacturing in Palampur, involves very simple methods and are done on a small scale. So basically people can manufacture here matchsticks. You have seen so many people who are manufacturing BD or some other things too, as like they are sewing something or tailoring something. That is how they earn money. Carried out mostly at home or in field with the help of family labor. So this is mostly done at the home, and in this kind of work family is going to provide labor, and rarely any laborers are hired for this work. The third thing that happens in Palampur, apart from the farming activity, it is shopkeepers. People involved in trade, exchange of goods are not many in Palampur. There are not many, but there are some traders like Palampur who uh, went to shopkeepers, and shopkeepers of Palampur will purchase from the wholesale market, and they will bring all the goods that they have purchased into the village, and then they will sell it. There are some families who are selling eatables at the bus stops too. Now the final thing that we have in chapter is transport. There are variety of vehicles on the road connecting Palampur to Raiganj. Okay, there are some mode of transport as like rickshaw wala, tonga wala, jeep, etc. There are they ferry people and goods from place to place, and in return they get paid for it. So basically they help people to went from one place to another, or goods to one place to another, and by this they in return they get money for it. And number of people is involved in this process in the transport, that it is the it has grown over the last several years. Okay, so that is it for today's video, and we will meet in our next video. Okay.